Hey, what's up, everybody? DFS Rico coming at you with my Week 3 NFL DraftKings first impressions slash first look. It's like the early week look of this slate. Got a pretty good slate. We got about six, let's see how many games. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 games. Should be an interesting slate. There are some guys that I still think are a little underpriced. Some guys I got a little priced up a little bit, but I'm going to try my best to break it down for you guys. This is early. Later on in the week, I will have my favorite stacks, uh, video. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe so you can get notifications. Maybe put that bell icon. And then also, I will have later on in the week, once we get more news on all these injuries, we'll have another video probably Friday night just so you guys can have an updated look. But as of right now, early on, some of you guys like to get started early. I'm going to give you some of my early impressions. But before I get into it, like I said, if you can like, comment, subscribe, I really do appreciate it. Every single like, every single view, I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask in the comments, and I will get back to you. But let's get to it. So up top, 7.3K, we got Russell Wilson. He's been killing it, looking like the early front runner for the MVP. I know it's only been 2 weeks, but he's been a stud. 34 the first game, and then 34 against one of the best defenses last year, at least, New England. Just been looking very good. He has about 9 touchdowns on the season. Hasn't thrown that many yards for the touchdowns. He's just been looking very good. Not even that many pass attempts either. 35 at the most. I mean, we've seen some of these guys throwing 50, 60, and not even hitting numbers like this guy. So Russell Wilson is just a beast. Metcalf and Lockett are just studs. He's good, man. Russell Wilson, I have no problem with him. He is going against Dallas. If you could find a way to put Russell Wilson in, I like Russell Wilson. Dallas, we saw what Matt Ryan did to Dallas. Russell Wilson's, in my opinion, is a lot better than Matt Ryan. So, take what you want out of that, but I do like him. Then right below him, you got Dak Prescott at 7.2K. I like him a good amount as well. This game's going to be very interesting. I don't think either of these defenses is that elite, so I will think it will be a shootout. It's going to be like the Atlanta-Dallas game. And then the Seattle has had games like this all season. Look, another shootout in the first game with Atlanta, and then they play sorry about that. And then they played New England, 35 points again. I think that's going to be the norm with Seattle, unless they play a really elite defense. It might make it a little tougher, but this game's going to probably be the highest scoring game on the slate. I like this game a lot for game stack purposes. Then you got Josh Allen, and then you got Josh Allen 6.9, playing a decent defense with the Rams. He's killed it the first 2 games, but he did do it against Miami and the Jets. So take that with a grain of salt. I mean, he's been looking elite. I mean, he's had Russell Wilson type numbers. He keeps this up, he's going to be in the MVP running. I'm a big fan of Josh Allen, honestly, mainly because he's won me about 2 years ago. He won me like 2 of my leagues, but you don't want to take that kind of emotion into every week. But if he comes out and shows, he plays very good this game, I'm going to be even a bigger believer in him. I do like him for GPPs, but he's only slightly cheaper than Wilson and Prescott. If you're going to play like cash or anything like that, I probably would prefer just bumping up to one of those guys. Josh Allen will be specifically a GPP, especially with Diggs. He's been killing it. He's going to be guarded by Ramsey, which, who knows, might make it tough, or Diggs might have himself a massive game again. Up next, we got Kyler Murray, 6.8, got priced up versus Detroit. Don't have an issue with him. Cam Newton's been nuts. 6.7. I think he has 2 rushing touchdowns in each game. Try to go for a third one in the last game versus Seattle. It's been looking good. He looked a lot better. They opened up the playbook a little bit, it looks like, versus Seattle. They were playing from behind. I think this game is one that could be a sneaky shootout. We saw how the Raiders looked against the Saints in the Monday night game. Carr looked very efficient, very good. This might be one of those like shootout games. The New England defense is not as elite as it was last year. Even towards the end of last year, they were dying off a little bit. They started off looking like God tier, but they have been slacking off lately. So I think this is a game that can be very interesting depending which side of it you want to play. Obviously, the Raiders side being a lot cheaper. Then you got Ryan versus Chicago. I'm still a believer in the Chicago defense. They haven't been playing as impressive as we got used to them playing, but I still like them. But Ryan is going to throw the ball probably like 40 times, up there. He's going to throw over 300 yards a game, seems like, on average at least. Uh, so he's not a bad play for GPPs. Watson playing against Pittsburgh is not a bad GPP. Ben Roethlisberger going against Houston, I don't mind him. Houston is not that good of a defense. This is probably his easiest matchup going into the season. This is third week. Denver's not a bad team. The Giants aren't a bad team. I mean, they are, but I don't know. I think their defenses are better than Houston's. Houston's defense is not that good. That one could be a sneaky shootout game, in my opinion, because Pittsburgh's defenses look decent, but they've been allowing some big plays to the opposing team. So might give them. I think we came into the season expecting them to be one of the best defenses. They have been, but they also haven't played against an offense like Deshaun Watson, led by Deshaun Watson. So the offenses they've been playing against haven't been that good. Stafford, 6.3. That's another game that might be sneaky. Stafford hasn't looked as good as he did early on last season where he got hurt, but he has been pretty decent, so I don't have an issue with him. Pairing him up, Kyler Murray, maybe some kind of game stack, but I actually have some interest in Joe Burrow. I don't expect him to go out there and throw 60 passes again. He did throw 61 attempts in that first game or in that second game. He fumbled twice, so he needs to take care of that ball better. Looks like he fumbled one time in the first game as well. Looked a lot better, obviously, the second game, but throwing the ball 61 times and only 316 yards is not that impressive. He is playing a decent, another bad defense in Philly. So if you could predict that game goes into a shootout, because I could see Philly getting ahead and Cincinnati having to play catch up. Maybe, maybe 60, maybe 50 pass attempts are in the. They look like they're just going to let this guy throw the ball, sling the ball wherever he wants. He's not that bad. I like him. I'm impressed. He has rushing upside as well. I haven't been a big fan of Tom Brady this season. He doesn't just look like himself. Rivers hasn't even looked like himself. This is a game where you might get Rivers at very low ownership and could benefit off of it, but I do prefer his running back a lot better, more than him. Scrolling down, you got Tannehill, you got Herbert. Herbert looked very good. I don't know if he starts the second game, so I will have an update on that later on in the week. Tannehill has been looking like a stud also. Last game he threw 4 touchdowns, only 239 yards though. So, and the yards are kind of important, in my opinion. Henry didn't look that good either though. So I mean, typically you would see Henry get like a touchdown or two in that kind of game, but they put up 33 points. 33, and Henry got like 70 yards and no touchdowns. I mean, typically you'd see him. I could see Tannehill coming down a little bit if Henry gets 1 or 2 of those touchdowns. Minnesota has not looked good. They've looked terrible on the defensive end, and we'll see how that one goes. So you got Wentz, you got Trubisky. I like Trubisky against Atlanta. I know he didn't look as good this last game. He threw 2 picks, 2 touchdowns. He threw the ball only 28 times. But if this, like I said, I did like the Chicago defense. But if for some reason Atlanta does get ahead and Trubisky has to play catch up, this Atlanta defense is not good. I think the Giants defense is better than Atlanta's. Atlanta's defense is just bad. I expect them to allow shootouts every single game, it feels like. And so I don't mind Trubisky. Wentz against Cincy's not bad. But there's just other players I like. I like paying up a little more for the slate. No Goff versus Buffalo. No Daniel Jones. Cousins has been looking god awful. Derek Carr, like I said, I did like that game for a shootout potential. He did put 3 touchdowns, 282 yards, 38 pass attempts. One thing I've always liked about Carr is he is efficient, but he does do a lot of checkdowns. They need to open up the playbook a little for him. They did utilize Ruggs a little better this last time out as a decoy, spreading the field, letting bigger plays like 5-yard gains turn into bigger plays. Get the ball into their playmakers like Waller, Renfro, and sometimes they get good amount of yards after catch. So I do like that game, honestly. I could see myself playing in a GPP like a Derek Carr stack with Waller, maybe Ruggs, depending on what their price tag is. I haven't looked at everybody's price tag yet, so I'm kind of going on the fly with this. But yeah, I think that's it for quarterbacks. Not really interested in anybody else down here. Carr is probably the cheapest I'll go. Let me double check that. Oh yeah, he's probably the cheapest I'll go on the slate, honestly. I think he continues what he did on Monday night. Next we got running backs. Oh, let me plug in a guy. I like Russell Wilson early on. I'm going to plug him in just to give you guys an early idea of what I like for cash or GPP, honestly. Uh, Christian McCaffrey's out. We know that he's out at 9.2K, so we'll look at his backup that's coming in. Elliott at 8.3 is not a bad play versus Seattle, but I think it becomes a shootout. He was good this last game. He had 7 targets, 6 receptions. So he's still involved in the game script, no matter what. So I don't have a problem with it. But I'd rather just have a guy that I know is going to be a little more secure. Elliott and Henry practically didn't even change prices. He went up 100. I think Derrick Henry stayed the same. No, he went down 100. But Derrick Henry is in another good matchup versus Minnesota. Minnesota has not looked good. Like I said, Henry didn't look good either. Hasn't really looked good either game, in my opinion. I think he got a little. He had 31 carries that first game. He's getting the touches, right? So I think he breaks out of it eventually, but this could be the week. I mean, Minnesota's not that good. Cook, they're not utilizing him enough for me to pay 7.6K for him. I'd rather just pay for Henry. Just 16 touches, 13 touches is just not going to be enough for 7.6K. Like, they're just not using him enough. If they started giving him the ball more, I would like him at that price. But there, even the guys around him, like Jacobs, Henry, Taylor, they're all just better plays. They're touching the ball a million times, it seems like. Jacobs had 30 touches this last game. That's insane. First game, he had 29 touches. Henry's still getting his 25 plus. Taylor, first start, he had 28 touches, 26 carries for 101 yards in a game where I think they get ahead again and they just keep feeding him the ball. Taylor is probably my favorite running back that I want to pay up for on the slate. Very huge interest in him. It's just been a stud. Obviously, he's only played 2 games, but he's looked very good. He's going to keep getting the ball at 7K. I think he's a little underpriced if he's going to get the ball 28 times. If he gives me just 25 touches, I'll be perfectly fine with that. And like I said, I expect him to get ahead. Hines was kind of irrelevant. They started playing Wilkins later on, I think it was. Let me see what he's priced at. They played Wilkins towards the end of the game. They were ahead. I think it was like garbage time. But I wouldn't worry about that. Taylor's the guy I want. Taylor looked very good. Nothing more I can say about him. I just like him at 7K. He's probably my favorite back around there to pay up for. He will be very popular though. Scrolling down, you got Chubb at 6.9 in a good matchup versus Washington. He looked very good last game. He had 23 touches. Kareem Hunt is getting a little amount of touches as well, a decent amount. So be concerned with that. Like if you want the touches, I'd rather go with a guy like Jacobs, Eckler, even Connor. Eckler's not bad at 6.8. I like him. He had 20 touches this last game. They finally utilized him more in the passing game. They did play against a good. It felt like a game where both teams were just trying to control the clock. They weren't trying to score. Carolina is one of the worst defenses versus running backs. They have multiple, probably like 10 games. Don't quote me on it. It's around there. With multiple rushing touchdowns allowed in a game, going back to last season. So Carolina, I think they do it again. We might see Kelly get his first touchdown. Just remember, Eckler is splitting kind of carries with him. Between them, they had like 45 touches this last game, so that's very good to see. I think Kelly got a little more because they were trying to run the clock down, though, because of Herbert. He was in their rookie quarterback. They were ahead. They were just trying to find a way to eat the clock, keep Mahomes off the field, I think. But typically in a closer game, I would think Eckler would be the better play as of right now. Going on to this through the season, who knows? But then you got Connor, 6.8 versus Houston, a soft defense. He had 18 touches. Not enough, in my opinion. I'd still rather play a guy like Eckler, Jacobs, or Taylor. Carson in the easy matchup, 6.6 versus Dallas. He had 20 touches. He's getting catches out the backfield now. Not a bad play. I think he'll be the lower owned guy out of the Seattle guys. So if you want to be different, Mostert is out or doubtful. So we'll see how that comes up. But the other guy I want to talk about, 6.4K Miles Sanders. I like him a lot in this matchup. Had 23 touches. He had 7 targets. He could have, got 2 more of those. He would have had 25 touches. Very good. He looked very good out there. 95 yards. Playing a soft defense against Cincinnati. He did fumble once, so that did lose him a little bit of points. He had a touchdown. Utilized in every aspect of the game. I like Sanders a very lot early on. Like, a lot early on. Sorry about that. But Wilson, Taylor, Sanders, I think that's a very good starting point. Just looking at it, I like it a lot early on. I like it a lot. Scrolling down, you get the bump up on Fournette. He looked a lot better this last game. He actually got 12, got more touches than everyone on the team. Running backs, 12 attempts, 103 yards. He had that big old run for the second touchdown. He had 30 fantasy points. He's going against Denver. We saw what Connor did to them. We saw what Henry did to him. So I think they both got over 100 rushing yards on him. So that's a little interesting. Yeah. So that kind of might be a little interesting. Maybe they figured something out. Maybe their run defense isn't that good. Doesn't help that Von Miller's not there either. So Fournette could be sneaky at 6.2 for a GPP. Then you got Kareem Hunt at 6.1. Looked good. 12 touches. He got a touchdown. He had that big old 2 touchdowns. It looks like. Yeah, he had 2 touchdowns. Looked very good, honestly, out there. I liked him. But like I said, he's splitting with Chubb, so it might be interesting. But I do expect him to get ahead that game. So, I mean, they're going to be just running the ball down their throat, so they will both get a bunch of touches. Then you got Kenyon Drake, 6K, got priced up about 100. It looked better that game. They gave him the ball a little more. He had 22 touches. At 6K, I don't mind him. Versus Detroit. Yeah, you saw what Aaron Jones just did to Detroit. Aaron Jones has been better than Kenyon Drake, but I don't know. I like Drake, but it seems like they're just running the ball more with Murray. Murray's just taking the ball for himself. So that might not benefit Drake that much. Mixon at 5.9 is a bit underpriced. In my opinion, he keeps getting priced down. Eventually, we're going to see the Mixon that we know, where he's just going to break out like he did at the end of last season. Video is getting kind of long. I'm trying to keep it shorter for you guys. But then you got Gurley, Gordon, Montgomery. They're decent plays. They're not the best plays. David Johnson, Henderson. Henderson should be starting with all the injuries to the team. 5.4 is not something I feel comfortable paying for him, though. Dion Lewis might be starting for the Giants, so keep an eye out on that. And then Mike Davis is the other guy that is starting. It looks like for McCaffrey. He had 8 receptions, 8 targets, 74 yards. He's very good out the backfield. He only had 1 rushing attempt, though, because they were behind, so they just kind of chucked it to him. But that could be interesting versus the Chargers. I don't really want to play anyone against the Chargers this season. I think they're an elite defense. They're a top 3 defense, in my opinion. So I'd rather just stay away from them. Obviously, when you're playing guys like the Chiefs, you can put pieces of it. But I don't know. I'm a big fan of that Chargers defense. I think they're very good. And we saw they kept the Chiefs in check, Scrolling down. I think that's really all I want to see down here. Singletary at 4.9 is not the worst. I know he's not producing, but he is getting a decent amount of touches. But nothing I want to really keep an eye on. But I think that's it down here for running backs. Let's bump over to wide receivers, try to get this thing moving a little quicker. We got Deshaun Watson. DeAndre Hopkins up top, 7.9. Been a stud. He got, 25 targets in the first 2 games. He's got 22 catches, so good. Julio Jones is questionable as of right now. I think he plays, but we'll see. Obviously, if he gets questionable, if he's out, bumps up a guy like Ridley right below him. Even if he's healthy, I think I prefer Ridley. Ridley has 22 targets compared to this guy's 16, but Julio did say he's been playing with a hamstring injury or something like that, so that might have affected him. So he was still worthy, out there, he was a decoy practically, so that might put a little more pressure on Ridley if he's not out there, but we'll see. 7K for Diggs, guarded by Jalen Ramsey. I'd rather just stay away. More of a GPP play. Thielen, 6.9. Garbage. Cousins. Not much more to say. He's not giving him the chance to even just get a good playoff. It's just not working. He's not throwing. I don't know. I like Thielen, though, as a player. But we'll see how that transitions onto the field. Then we got Mike Evans at 6.8. If it looks like Godwin is going to be playing. Well, cool. He's going to be playing, so I don't mind either one of these guys. I think I prefer some cheaper guys, or I'd rather just pay up for Ridley or a guy. Honestly, Ridley. Then you got Juju, because just as Brady hasn't been that impressive in my opinion. 6.6 Juju, I like him. 14 targets the first 2 games. I know Deontay Johnson has been getting more targets, but I still like Juju for the GPPs. Then this is where the area where you want to be at with Cooper, Metcalf, and Lockett. I really like Cooper. I really like Metcalf. I really like Lockett. If I'm going to pair one guy up with Wilson, I am going to be pairing up Lockett. 6.4K. 16 targets the first 2 games. I think this game goes into another shootout. He didn't have a touchdown the first game, but he still got 117.2 points. I like Lockett. He gets a little more targets than Metcalf, as we've seen. 16 compared to 14. Not that much more, obviously, but they're his 1 and 2 guy. It's going to be one or the other, in my opinion. They're always going to hover around the same amount of yards, it feels like, catches, targets. So you can't go wrong with either one. I like Lockett and Wilson. I like pairing them up together. Running it back with a guy like Cooper or even CeeDee Lamb or Gallup is not a problem. Depending how you want to stack, there's a lot of ways you can go from here alone. This is 4 guys I'm really interested in. But like I said, I like Cooper. I like Metcalf. I probably prefer Lamb a little more than Cooper right now just because he's cheaper and a good matchup as well. Odell Beckham looked a lot better that second game, but he only had 6 targets. I don't know. And it was a high scoring game. And like I said, I expect him to be ahead as far as game script. Um, Edelman looked like a stud. Like I said, if I expect that game to be high scoring, I don't mind playing a guy like Edelman. Yeah, I think he broke his record, his own like personal record of yards in a game, which is crazy. You would think he would have had more with Brady, but 179 with Cam Newton. It worked out. I think they're playing him really smart out there. Then you got Robinson at 6.2, got priced down a little. He still got his targets. He had 9 targets, just wasn't on the money. He's going to have his huge game eventually, and I can see it being against Atlanta. That's why I do like playing a guy like Trubisky with Robinson this weekend. We don't know if Galladay is going to be playing. Keep an eye out on that. Robert Woods had a rushing touchdown, which is crazy. He almost had as many He had 3 rushing attempts compared to 2 receptions. Like, I don't know what the hell is going on over there, but I like Woods, but we'll see how it turns out this next game versus Buffalo. Not a team I want to pick on. Then you got DJ Moore, looked a lot better this second game, but like I said, I don't want to pick on a team like the Chargers. Just my opinion. Keenan Allen, I do like him at 6.1. Had 10 targets second game, 8 targets the first game. Looked like they were really trying to get him the ball in space as well. I watched that game and I liked what they were trying to do with him. Then you got AJ Green, 6K, 13 targets. He has 22 targets going into the first 2 games. He's just not getting the ball. Like, Burrow's missing him though a lot of the time. AJ Green hasn't obviously looked as good as we remember him, but Burrow's just missing him a lot in a game where I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I think AJ Green can be a little more relevant. Tyler Boyd has obviously been benefiting the most out of Burrow, but AJ Green's not bad. I like Will Fuller as well at 6K. He had 0 targets this last game. I don't know what was going on. I think he bounces back this game. A.J. Brown, you got Tyler Boyd at 5.9, so like obviously 13 targets. He's been playing better than Green. I think Green eventually starts getting he's elite, man. When he was healthy, he's elite. Obviously, he might just be too old now, but who knows? Too many injuries wore him out, but we'll see. McLaurin looked very good this game. In a game where they're going to be from behind, I don't mind getting some shares of him. Sutton is out, we know that. John Brown. T.Y. Hilton has been trash. Well, Phillip Rivers has been trash, so I don't know. Landry, you got Gallup at 5.5K. There's that other guy. So it kind of comes down to Gallup and CeeDee Lamb, and I prefer CeeDee Lamb in that same Seattle game. CeeDee Lamb, Cooper, and Gallup is the way I would rank them for me. And then you got Deontay Johnson at 5.4. Leads the team in targets, 23 targets. Probably one of the highest in the league, I'm pretty sure. Seems like Ben really likes him. 5.4K. He's looked very good against a soft Houston defense, a bad Houston defense. They're just not that good in my opinion. Their pass rush isn't even that good either. But we'll see how that turns out. Crowder is questionable if he plays. He could be pretty interesting if he does play. We'll see how that happens. At 13 targets that first game. I expect him to be behind this game, so I could see him getting a decent amount of targets. And the Indianapolis defense isn't that great either. It's good, though. Don't get me wrong. Gage will be nice if Julio's out. Ruggs didn't look that good that second game. Got some targets, but I don't know. The thing with the Raider offense, they like to spread the ball out a lot, so it's kind of iffy about that. Anthony Miller didn't have any receptions this last game, but had 3 targets. No, I'd rather just play Robinson. I think that's it. Some of these cheap guys can kind of go a lot of different ways. The main cheap guy down here at 4.2, though, is N'Keal Harry. He had 12 targets. Played the most snaps out of any receiver on the team. 86% of snaps, it says right here. He's looked good. Cam Newton really likes him. in that first game where they were just really trying to eat the clock and run out the game. He had 6 targets and didn't even play that much, it felt like. And then you got the next game, he follows it up with 12 targets where they're playing from behind. In a game where I predict myself to be a shootout again, or high scoring, I think the Raiders win, but I think New England comes having to come from behind a little bit. So I think Harry will be pretty relevant out there. 4.2 is very good. If he's going to give me 10 targets at 4.2, give me some of that. I like that. He's probably my favorite cheap guy as of right now down here, just because of the volume he is getting from from Cam. But then the last position I really want to talk about is the defense is kind of if you just kind of go a ton of ways with that, but I like to just fill it in. But the tight end, I want to have us to have a decent amount of salary. When you got some good tight ends up here, Higbee had that 3 touchdown. Waller looked like a baller. Fant looked good. Hawkinson was decent. Johnny Smith was a decent. He's just gonna be overshadowed by his big ass play. He had that big play. Without that play, he's nowhere near what he did. Ertz hasn't been looking like the Ertz we know, but he still had 7 targets both games. Not bad. Evan Ingram, I expect his target share to go up a little bit with Barkley being out. Maybe he gets about 10 targets a game. I think he's their best receiver. So, I mean, I know he's a tight end, but he's their best receiver. So, Goddard had probably like 9. He had 8 targets. Has more targets than Ertz. I'd probably just rather play him right now. I think Ertz will be less owned. So, if you want to be different, I don't mind him. But like I said, I like Sanders. I think they get ahead and just don't look back that game. So, we'll see. Henry, Hurst. Henry looked good. Herbert liked him a lot. He had 8 targets. Same with Keenan Allen had 10. We saw that. Those were probably his 2 favorite targets on the game, which they should be. They're just 2 best players other than Eckler, I guess. But scrolling down, you got all these decent guys in this middle price. If I'm going to be paying down, I don't want to pay for Reed. He didn't play that many snaps. So I'm not that interested in at 4K for him. He has to have a pretty decent number. Mo Alley Cox. Mo Alley Cox. Mo Alley Cox. That guy. He was efficient. I don't assume that stays up. Somebody that I still like is Thomas. I'm still gonna go back to the well with Logan Thomas at 3.7K. 9 targets the last game, 8 targets the last game. If he continues with targets like that, eventually he's gonna get a couple more grabs, a couple more touchdowns, and I'm fine with that. I'd rather him. One of these guys, other guys, they're not going to be that efficient all the time is the problem. And I expect Thomas to be a little better. Eventually, he's going to get more receptions. If his targets are going to stay around the same, I like him. And then Herndon at 3.4 is not a problem. He had 4 targets. I don't know what happened. I expected him to be better this last game, but he wasn't. They didn't utilize him that much, it felt like. I didn't get to watch that game, so I'm not sure if they were playing some kind of defense on him, knowing that was going to be his favorite target that game. But no Crowder. I thought he would be better, but maybe Crowder helps him get a little pressure off of him. That's probably why he plays a little better. We'll see, though. But early on, this is my early look right now for cash, honestly. I don't mind none of these guys in GPPs either, but in cash for sure. Wilson pairing him up with Lockett and then running it back with anyone from the other team. You don't have to, but I like him with Lockett. I like Taylor. I like Sanders. There's some cheap receivers. Obviously, I talked about Harry down there. And then once you get your defense, then it'll bring your average a little higher as well. So that's what I like early on. I mean, like, let's look at the defense really. Let's say I was to plug in the Giants defense because I don't think they're that terrible. 5.5K, I'm perfectly fine. That's perfect. So like I say, you plug in a guy like Harry, you're in a good spot again. But that's just me early on, what I'm looking like early on. Hopefully you guys like it, my first impressions. Like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate every last one of you guys. Thank you.